Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we're taking a look at some cards trending on the market because of some new stuff coming out in the near future. Now with some things it's because we just had the Doom of Dimensions reveals, and that sneak peek is in just over a week, so players are getting ready for those new cards. At the same time, we're in the middle of getting a ton of new reveals for Burst Protocol, which is the core set coming after Doom of Dimensions. It's looking like a really cool set that's providing support for a lot of awesome older archetypes, and we're seeing some early buyouts as players react to that news as well. Let's get started. Alright, kicking things off, we'll take a look at Beat Bladesman for Hire. So the For Hire archetype is one that players generally haven't taken all that seriously. They debuted back in Dark Saviors, and they were obviously overshadowed by the Sky Striker theme. I believe that a couple of the monsters for hire did see play in runic variants, but aside from that, the deck has been strictly casual. However, we just had some new support for hire revealed to be coming in Burst Protocol, which is the core set after Doom of Dimensions that'll be dropping into TCG in early 2026. Now personally, I really love the theme. I tried playing the pure deck when it came out. It obviously just wasn't good enough, but the new support cards actually look really strong. I'm hoping they'll be at least a tier 2 strategy. Now for the most part, the cards for hire are pretty cheap. They've either been printed in low rarities or got reprints that were in low rarities, so they're relatively easy to find. On top of that, we don't have any of the cards from the theme that were printed in any sort of luxury rarity printing either. Beat is probably the best of the existing cards for the theme. It has the standard effect to special summon a monster for hire from hand, and it lets you search for any monster for hire as well. Now, Beat has just 2 printings. It was originally a short printed secret rare, and that version, as the card's highest rarity, has jumped up like crazy, going from $3 or so before to now being around $8 to $10 based on those sold listings on TCG Player. Technically, I think the cheapest copy available right now is like $20, $25, but we don't have any sold listings at that price point. The other printing is the ultra rare that was a reprint in the tins. Those used to be dirt cheap at under $1 each. They're now also up to $5 to $6 per copy. The cards for hire are definitely worth paying attention to. We obviously don't know what the deck is going to look like quite yet, but I feel like we could see foil versions of Mayhem, Folgo, and Raphael go up in price over the next few weeks when the cards do officially become available in the OCG and we get some sample deck lists coming in. On to the next one, let's take a look at Ghost Fairy Elphobia. So this is quite an old card coming out back in Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy. That's the set that Dracosac and Spellbook of Judgment were released in, by the way. Now, Elphobia is a pretty simple level 3 psychic monster where you can reveal a wind monster in your hand, and until the end of your opponent's next main phase, monsters with a higher level than the revealed monster cannot activate their effects. So this card is obviously pretty situational. We just haven't really had any deck that's been able to abuse this card before. Thankfully, however, it's a psychic monster, so you can cheat this card out of your deck with something like Emergency Teleport and then use it to go into an extra deck monster. Now there are a couple of decks I think players are considering with this card. The first one being the Radiant Typhoon deck, which is the Magnifi-Storming is their OCG name. That's the theme coming in Doom of Dimensions that's based around MST. Since they are all wind monsters, they have a couple of level 3s that you could reveal, though that is kind of situational, and maybe restricting only level 3 or higher isn't that great because it doesn't stop something like Yummy, who knows. The other theme is the Cool Tune, or Killer Tune is their OCG name. They have just 1 level 2 wind monster in the theme. I'm not too sure how this would work out since you do get locked into tuners only with that strategy. Maybe you could start off by going with Emergency Teleport, bringing this card out, and then using a tuner to make something like Herald of the Arclight, and then you go into your Killer Tune card since the normal spell for Cool Tune only locks you into tuners for the rest of the turn. Anyways, I don't know if Elphobia will actually see play in the strategy. The OCG lists for Cool Tune that I've seen online haven't used it, so maybe it's just something that people are trying to hype up or are speculating about, since the TCG and OCG obviously are pretty different. Despite having only 1 printing, Elphobia was only $1 or $2 before. However, it has jumped in price with the sudden attention that it received. Based on those sold listings, we are seeing this card at around $5 to $7 each. However, there are very few quantities available on TCG Player, and the cheapest ones are literally like $10 a copy. With this one, I personally think it's just way too situational to actually see competitive play. I would definitely look to offload these if you happen to have them lying around in your foil bulk. Next up, let's take a look at Snake Eyes Doom Dragon. So despite the name, this card was never really used by Snake Eyes all that much. It came out a little bit too late, and by then the Snake Eye engine was really dead. However, the card did get some attention because of its summoning condition. So basically, this is a level 8 body that can push a monster to the back row as a continuous spell, which is a very unique way of getting rid of certain bodies, and you can special summon it by sending 2 face-up monsters from your spell trap zone to the graveyard. Now, we did see hype for Doom Dragon a couple of months ago, back when the Millennium package was getting a lot of attention and everyone was trying to splash it into their decks as a way to get additional bodies onto the field. And to be fair, the Millennium cards did get reprinted in the tins, though they weren't particularly expensive in the first place. However, it seems that players are also using this card over in the OCG as a tech for decks using the Magistus engine. Now, even though Magistus monsters equip themselves from the extra deck, those equipped monsters are still treated as spells, so you can send them to the graveyard to bring out the Doom Dragon. Obviously, right now, this isn't completely viable in the TCG, since we do not yet have Spoon released, though it should be fairly soon. It was just revealed on Master Duel with the TCG name of Spenta. Now, with Doom Dragon, this was only a couple of dollars initially. It jumped up to $8 or so when it was seeing some of that hype before. It had fallen down to the $5 to $6 range, but then now with the play it's seeing in the OCG, we see the secret rare versions sitting at around $10 to $12 per copy on TCG Player. The card has just one printing in Supreme Darkness, so it just barely missed out on being reprinted in this year's tins, though of course that also means we don't know when it's going to be reprinted next. It might not be until the 2026 tins. With this one, I think it's a good card to just own 1 or 2 copies of if you are interested in playing with the Magistus cards whenever they do come out. It definitely has the potential to be really strong, depending on how the ban list shapes up, and Supreme Darkness is now a few sets old, so there's not going to be that many copies that are going to flood back onto the market. On to the next one, we have Saryuja Skuldread. So this is a card I think we mentioned about a month or so ago, but with the upcoming release of Doom of Dimensions, I thought we should briefly mention it once again. Saryuja is a pretty crazy Link 4 monster. Its real value comes from if you use 4 monsters to make it, since it gets 2 different effects where you can draw 4 cards and then return 3 to the bottom of your deck, helping you to dig and put back dead cards like Extra Mulcharmies, as well as allowing you to special summon any monster from your hand. Now, over in the OCG, Saryuja has been seeing play in the Vanquished Soul K9 strategy ever since the release of Doom of Dimensions. Essentially, all of the K9 cards allow you to get a ton of bodies onto the field really easily. This allows you to thin your deck of K9 cards so that when you resolve Saryuja's draw effect, you're almost guaranteed to see a copy of either Raisin, Madlove, or Stake Your Soul, just something to turn on those Vanquished Soul sides of your deck. Now, that is one of the things that the deck was lacking before. The Vanquished Souls could bridge into the K9 side, but K9s couldn't really get into the Vanquished Soul cards, but now Saryuja seems to be the closest thing we're going to get to that for now. Now with Saryuja, this is a fairly old card that hasn't been reprinted in a few years actually. That said, all of its printings are starting to go up in price. This was originally a secret rare back in Extreme Force, and then it got a reprint in the 2018s as a secret rare as well. At the moment, either secret rare copy is going to cost you around $8 to $10 each. However, the card did get one other reprint in Dual Devastator. This was guaranteed in the product, but that product is really old at this point, so those copies are still going to cost you like $2 to $3 each. This is definitely a card that's worth making note of when Noroi does come out in a couple of weeks. Assuming that they're not hit too hard on the ban list, we are going to see a ton of Vanquished Soul K9, as well as Yummy running around in the format. Players are going to want to pick up their copies of Saryuja, and for newer players that weren't around when Dual Devastator came out, this might be a difficult card to find. Of course, there is a chance that we could see Saryuja get reprinted in some sort of reprint set, but if not, expect the price of Saryuja to go up steadily over time as we approach YCS Anaheim. Alright, so I do want to take a brief second here to take a look at an RB card, and we're going to take a look at RB Stage Landing. So we had the new RB support that will be coming in Doom of Dimensions finally revealed, and the new stuff does look pretty good. Maybe not game breaking or anything too crazy, but it definitely has the potential to be a solid tier 2 deck, since they did receive some cool things like a way to blow up your opponent's board, a trap searcher, and a way to recycle resources. Now that said, a lot of people have been keeping an eye on the existing RB cards for quite a while, and with the reveal we saw another bit of a bump up. Stage Landing feels like the craziest card in the deck, just special summoning an RB monster from your deck or extra deck, which is crazy value because it doesn't negate the monster's effect or anything like that. This one was the secret rare from the first wave of support, and historically it was never really all that expensive. However, Duelist's Advance wasn't a great set in terms of value, so Stage Landing actually did retain more value than it normally would have in a better core set. Even with the reveals, the secret rares haven't really moved in price all that much, maintaining at the $5 mark. However, the Starlight rares have been climbing in price. These were at $15 initially. They went up to $25 a couple of weeks ago because people were really expecting the RB support to be good. And now once again, they've jumped all the way up to between $35 and $40 lowest on TCG Player. This is a pretty interesting one to note, and we will have to see exactly what it is that players have managed to cook up with the strategy over the course of the next few weeks. Despite this, I don't really think that the deck's going to be all that meta relevant. It's going to be more of a fun deck for your locals. I am expecting the prices of the high rarity versions of Stage Landing and Brute Blues to eventually fall down in price over the next several months, back to the prices that they were at before this wave of hype. Up next, we have Banishment of the Dark Lords. So Dark Lords were just yesterday confirmed to be getting some new support in Burst Protocol, and it does look pretty decent. They finally have some lower level Dark Lords aside from Condemned Witch, which was just sort of an honorary Dark Lord. I'm not thinking that they're going to be meta or anything like that. The one thing they really have going for them is the absolutely beautiful artwork. Anyways, Banishment is obviously a 3-of staple for the deck. It's a hard once per turn, but it searches for any Dark Lord card from your deck, so it grabs any combo piece that you need, which is awesome to see. Of course, the main problem is going to be what the deck can actually pull off. I think it's just that the ceiling of the deck probably isn't all that high. Anyways, Banishment has 2 printings. This got an ultra rare reprint in one of the early Battles of Legend sets. Those aren't too crazy, but they're coming in at $1 to $2 each, which is still worth noting because the card was basically just bulk before. Its original printing is as a secret rare from back in Destiny Soldiers. These were $1 or $2 before, but we're basically seeing them completely disappear from the market. I don't know what's up with the listings for this one specifically on TCG Player. There's been a decent amount of sold listings, anywhere from $2 to $4. For cheapest ones available, it's showing them out of order for me. It's saying like $15. There's a couple underneath it at like $5 to $7. Either way, there's hardly any near mint copies available on the market. This is a card to keep an eye on since Burst Protocol isn't coming out here until January. There's a lot of time where either the card could get reprinted and tank in value, or it could continue to go up in price as the hype builds and people figure out the way that they want to play this strategy. And finally, the last card we have for today is Black Metal Dragon. Now this is a card that does have a bit of a history of getting expensive. For a while, the card was just so annoying to find. The commons were like a couple dollars each, and then the OTS supers were $15 to $20, something crazy expensive. This of course was a starter for the Dragon Link deck. This searches for a Red Eyes card when it goes to the graveyard, so you could search for Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon when you link this card off to make Striker Dragon with. But the cool thing is that the effect is a soft once per turn, so if you do bring it back with the Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, you get another search if you happen to play another Red Eyes card as a target. So we now have Rocket support confirmed to be coming in Burst Protocol, and although Black Metal Dragon isn't a Rocket card necessarily, it's part of the whole Dragon Link pile deck, so the assumption is that if Rockets are good again, this card is going to be a very valid starter for the deck to use and accumulate resources with. Now fortunately, Black Metal Dragon was reprinted in Quarter Century Stampede, which was Rarity Collection 4, and it was in the main part of the set, so it was printed not just as a QCR, but also as a super ultra secret and then all of those other luxury rarities. Because of this, most of the rarities haven't moved much price-wise, but the QCRs are starting to climb. They were fairly expensive on release, but had bottomed out at around the $8 mark. Now, however, they are climbing up pretty quickly. I think there's one copy at $14 or $15, and most of the sold listings are around $13 to $14, but after that, they quickly jump to around the $20 mark, lowest on TCG Player. So yeah, with this one, I don't know exactly how I would feel about getting the QCRs. One of the most annoying things I'm finding right now is that I have a bunch of decks where some cards are Starlight and some cards are QCR, and it kind of bugs me. Really, it's just going to be up to you guys to decide which rarity of the card you like the best and play with that, since you will have a ton of options available to you. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. I think the thing that's bugging everyone the most is the fact that we don't have a ban list. I know everyone's just so excited for it. I actually don't think it's really going to change that much because really we're going to still be in Justice Hunters for that. We're still going to see Yummy. We're still going to see Vanquish Soul K9. It's just maybe things like X Ryziel and maybe one of the Malice cards that are going to be hit. But I think everyone just wants to know so that we can prepare for YCS Anaheim. So hopefully that drops within the next week or so. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy today's market watch, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.